The question relates to, are decorative plants acceptable as medicinal plants? Well, the answer is if they're medicinal. The other question was, what do we mean by attractive or decorative? We mean that it must appeal to the viewer. However you want to define that, we're not going to prescribe it. So again, we're trying to avoid prescribing too narrowly. We're giving you guidelines and you should work around those guidelines. We don't want to say that's what we mean by decorative or that's what we mean by attractive. You can explore those issues.
But generally speaking, I think the guidelines are that it has to be, you have to have one that is medicinal or traditional use, and that doesn't actually encompass decorative. So I think the decorative is an overall sense of what things should look like. Okay.
Was that sound all right? I think there's also one more dimension to the decorative, which is what I meant in the article, and that is that I was referring to medicinal plants that were used for adornment and decoration, in instances like rites of passage, whether they be, the birth of a child or... So that's another dimension. Yeah.
Yes, I think, Nick, we can pick up on that issue that you were raising, plants that have been traditionally used for adornment. In other words, we may class them as decorative. If those plants had some symbolic value, which is usually what happened in traditional use, is that the plants were not arbitrarily selected. They acquired, that's what the word tradition means, they acquired a well-established significance. And if they are used decoratively or for it to be attractive, it would have been a set class of plants that would have been used for that particular purpose, not as in the modern concept where anything that's colorful could be used, could be classed as decorative. So in that case, yes, I would say they can be used, but they must fall into that category of the use sanctioned by tradition. And it's up to the artists to make that point to us so that we can see that.
Okay, so there's a question about what happens if the judges see that there are 3 paintings that they like and the 4th one is not so good. Do you get a second chance? Well, it's a difficult one. We don't like to do that because the artists have made their selection. So generally we will then have a discussion about whether the worst one is so bad that we can't accept all 4 of them, or else it's so marginal that we will accept them. It will affect the meddling, but it won't affect the artist in any other way. I'm personally very much against sending a work back to be improved because it is a judged exhibition. And if the artist thinks that's good enough, then that's what they must be judged on. I think it becomes unfair if one work goes back and then you say, oh, just fix this up. It should have been done before the exhibition was submitted.
When we use the term Southern Africa in a botanical context, it's very explicit. It means Namibia, South Africa, Botswana, Lesotho, and Swaziland. Nothing more, that's what it means.
On the other hand, what a lot of the plants that occur further north, like in Zambia and Zimbabwe, they often occur in Limpopo. So, you must just do your homework and see. When it comes to the sizes of frames, no, there is no standard size at all requirement. I think that would really squeeze the artists into shapes that they don't want to use. So you're welcome as long as they fit well together.
Vicki, something that we wanted to talk about, there's been some query about having different media in one exhibit. You've covered that. As long as they talk to one another, relate to one another, are visually coherent with one another, it doesn't matter if they're mixed media. But you raised the point that people need to be cautious, that they must not be too disparate, either in their coloration or the different media that are actually used for the individual works. But if they're sympathetic to one another, then it doesn't matter if they're different media.
Diana Carmichael did exactly that one year and got a very high medal. I don't know if it was silver or gold. And she used every one of her 4 paintings was in a different medium.
Right. So again, we're relying on the artists to assess how these work together and present them to us. The other question that we wanted to just talk about here a little bit is the issue of black and white as opposed to color, and pen and ink as opposed to paint. I know that from a superficial perspective, the color is more striking. We've got used to reading color more easily, color television, color magazines. The judges are very careful not to try and let that bias their opinion. We encourage black and white in whatever medium. We've had scraperboard, we've had pen and ink, we may even have had pencil. So we try very hard not to be biased about this, and as I say, we encourage it. At the same time, I think artists need to be aware that if they're going to present stuff that's not in color, they need to be very sure that it is going to stand out sufficiently. So a pencil runs that risk because it's pale. And the same will be said about watercolors. If the paint is really very pale and wishy-washy, it's going to be difficult for it to grab our attention. And so they need to be aware that they're then putting an extra burden on themselves.
They need to be exquisitely done.
Something needs to speak then above and beyond this. Yes. That has been a recurring question, and we've even considered whether we have a separate category for black and white, but I don't think it's possible.
I think, if you've got a beautiful, I mean, looking at Sarah Simblett's work as well, if you've got a really beautifully rendered pen work, we will give it a gold medal.
Yeah.
There's no question. If it's beautifully done, it will be recognized. And we've got such a good cross-section of judges, and they come from different aspects of the whole thing, that it isn't just one person swaying everybody else's opinion. It's very democratic. So if you get a judgment and you are unhappy about that judgment, then you can come and talk to us and we'll explain what the decision-making process was, because that can be a very good learning process for the artists as well.
Another word on that is, Vicki, you can remind or correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't think in any of the years we've been judging together on the panel, there's been major differences, whether the work is acceptable or unacceptable. That's always very clear, it's unanimous. Whether the work is in contention for medals or not, that's always been unanimous. The only issues where we need to tweak and discuss amongst one another is what medal it's going to get if it's in contention for medal. So there's generally good consensus among the judges.